At the end of the day, she was still a person, a human being, a mother, and she deserves justice just like everybody else. Hello, true crimeers. This is the case of Lauren Aukett. Viewer discretion is advised. Before we get started, make sure you please subscribe to the channel. I tell multiple true crime stories every single week here on YouTube. Some short, some long, some minute-long ones as well. Follow me over on TikTok. The link will be in the link tree of the description of this video below. And you can also recommend a case to me. My email is listed below. Just email me the name of the individual, where it happened, when it happened. I'll add it to my list. I pick my cases that I cover at random. I will get to that one eventually, I promise. I just can't tell you when. But let's get right into today's case. The story happened in South Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. Lauren Aukett, at the time of this case, was 33 years old. She was a loving and caring mother to 3 kids. She had a 14-year-old named Sky, a 10-year-old named Aiden, and a 5-year-old named Austin. Sadly, a few years before this case happened, Lauren lost her husband and the father to her children to cancer. And it hit her pretty hard. It was devastating to her and the whole family. Lauren was described by people as very intelligent and incredibly generous. She was someone who always, at least to the best of her abilities, would help someone if they needed help. She loved Shakespeare and poetry, and her sister would say that she had sarcasm down to an art form. She had graduated, I guess, from the Academy of Notre Dame de Namur, and she had graduated as an honor student. Everything about Lauren Aukett was going really, really well for her. She was extremely bright, and she was going to have a good future ahead of her. She was going to be able to give her kids a good life. But then, unfortunately, Lauren fell victim to the drug epidemic, and in particular, crack cocaine and heroin were 2 drugs that she would eventually become addicted to. And then suddenly all of that promise that she had, it seemed to kind of just slowly fade away. And by the time this case occurs, her 3 kids were no longer living with her. She was actually living on the streets, and she was just finding anywhere she could, I guess, to sleep. I think a lot of times when you talk about cases like this where you have victims who got caught up in the drug scene, a lot of people tend to kind of just blow it off like, oh, well, they were drug addicts or whatever, so it doesn't matter, whatever happened to them happened to them. That can't be a mentality that we have, because, you know, at the end of the day, these are still people, these are humans. Like Lauren, for example, was a mom to 3 kids, and addiction is a hell of a thing, and it's a hell of a thing to escape. And sadly, sometimes these things can just take over a person's life, but it doesn't take away the fact that they were still a person. You know, like Lauren Aukett didn't cause any physical harm to anyone ever. And unfortunately, her life would come to a very brutal end one day. It was April 5th, 2017, and this building here is the South Philadelphia High School. At approximately 6:30 a.m. on April 5th, 2017, the body of a very badly beaten woman was found on the steps of this high school. She had been absolutely pulverized. Her head had been caved in. There was some extreme blunt force trauma. She also had some pretty severe lacerations to her body, some cuts, some bruises, and she was miraculously at that point still alive, despite how she appeared to look. She looked like she was in really, really bad shape, and she would end up lasting 10 days at the hospital. She never really regained consciousness. She had severe brain damage that she was never going to recover from. And she just had just a whole bunch of injuries just all over her body. Someone had absolutely just destroyed this woman, beat her senseless. Now, she wouldn't actually be identified until about April 14th. Just because of how badly she had appeared to look, you know, it was almost impossible to actually recognize her. But by circumstance, they would find out just kind of through word of mouth about this woman who was found, at the hospital now. Her family found out and they were able to identify her. Unfortunately, the doctors would tell them, her family, that she was not coming back from this. She was gone. Her heart may still be beating, but she's not ever going to wake up from this. She's never going to recover. So her family made the very painful decision to take her off of life support, and then by the following day, she would be pronounced deceased. According to police there in Philadelphia, the school had CCTV cameras, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, the cameras that would have likely captured this assault were not operating at the time. And so they were not able to find any footage of the attack. They did say that there was another camera at a different position, kind of far away, that they think they may have captured the assailant, but the camera was so far away that the image was so blurry that you can't make anything out. There's no identifying features of this person. And so ultimately, it really wasn't going to be any help, this image. And so what Lauren's family just has been trying to put out there is just please imagine that this was your mom, your sister, your daughter, your niece, your aunt, someone in your life that you love dearly. And then try to separate this whole public viewpoint on people who are addicted to drugs or people who are homeless and on drugs. But people tend to discount them as people. They're not worth our time or they're not worth caring about, which is it's insane because you have made mistakes in your life. I have made mistakes in my life. We have all made some unfortunate decisions in our life. None of us are perfect. We are all very far from perfect. And if this had happened to you or I or someone you love, you would want justice just as bad. And so I think the hope here is that they hope that the police don't kind of put this on the back burner for too long because of, her profile, essentially. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to it, Lauren Aukett was brutally beaten and she was murdered. She had her skull caved in. Her skull was just destroyed. She was cut up. She was bruised. She was beaten severely. Nobody deserves that. At least not an innocent person who may have also just sort of fallen into the wrong crowd, but it doesn't make you a person who deserves this. And most importantly, think about her kids. She has 3 kids out there that no longer have a mom. They'll never be able to see her again, ever. There was always that chance that you could get her the help that she may have needed, and she could have gone to recovery and she could have gotten so much better and then gotten back to the life she had before and got her kids back in her life and continued her education, got a great job. That could have happened, but now no one will ever know that because someone decided to do this to her. And her kids especially deserve closure. They deserve justice. They deserve the answers. They deserve this. All of them deserve the truth, and they deserve to know what exactly happened to her and why did this happen to her. Someone is out there who has beat a woman to death and they're just roaming out there, and that's not a person you should want out there. And so somebody somewhere out there has got to know the truth about who did this to Lauren Aukett. And if that someone is you need to report your information. You can report it anonymously. You do not have to say who you are. You just have to say what you know. That's it. And then this could help get the family the closure they deserve. So if you do have that information, please contact the South Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-3334. Please help Lauren Aukett, her children, and her family get the justice she rightfully deserves.